Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is that time of year again. Time to get the old gleaners fired up. Get them out, get a few things fixed up, get them ready to go. Fire up the old beast. Well, real close. Give it a second. Fire it up. It'll do it. Oh. It's so close. I feel like if the battery had a little bit more juice in it.
Oh, you mean like two big batteries?
Yeah, or one huge battery.
Okay.
Somewhere, let me find it. Okay, let's fire this old beast up. Maybe. Corn Plus and the corn and soybean special. It's a little wore off. So I've gotten multiple requests for this video, and I'm sure that others will find it useful. Like people have said that they just can't find a video where people have gone through and talked about the different settings of the gleaners and how to set them. Now I can't say exactly how to set your combine for your crops. What I am going to do here is I have a book for this, which will get you in a ballpark with any of the gleaners, really real close. So I will put that picture in now, and you guys can pause it and take a look at that. Okay, so now that you've seen that, we talk about the different settings that is talking about, especially if you're really new to the gleaners. You may not know the difference between a Schaefer, a sieve. I would imagine you'd know what the concaves and the cylinder is. But anyhow, I'm gonna explain it like somebody that that maybe doesn't know what all the working parts are called. So right here is your cylinder gap. That mark right here. Now I was in corn last year. That's where I was running it for corn. Not sure what cylinder speed I was on. My thing up there doesn't work, but I play with it, and I'll tell you what, I'll kind of go over what I'm looking for in the future. I'll go over what I'm looking for when I'm changing my cylinder speed here in a little bit. But I never opened my rock door. Darn it. Oh boy. Give me a minute. Okay, so this right here is the rock door. if you run a rock through the machine, this is actually made to trip open so that you don't damage a bunch of stuff inside there. Right up in here though, get you turned around without making you drunk. Here's a cylinder. I run these, I made these plates to put in there, and they made all the difference in the world, guys. I originally did them for high moisture corn, but last year in my corn is like around 18% or so. I really like this because I was able to get full cobs off of it. And you'll also see that these are ground down. These are aftermarket. They're called Timp, the company that makes them. This edge is hard surfaced, and then they grind every other one out of it, which is actually a thing for soybeans with small grains. They give you some more capacity in your cylinder. But if you can find them, I would suggest getting them if you get them at a good price. So right up in here is the open concave system, which runs, if I can, at the bottom of the cylinder. So the concave is actually open so that the grain, as you thresh it, it falls down onto here. And it's, you know, this is your first stage of separation. So it makes the M's and the L's special. The F's don't have this. This is an open concave system. It's exclusive to the L's and the M's. So anyway, what I came down here for to begin with. So when you're wanting to set your cylinder height, what you want to do is take and drop your cylinder all the way down. Cylinder all the way down. Let me get out of here. So once you got your cylinder set, like I said, all the way down, that's when you take this and you move it to 0. That's, you're zeroing it out. That's pretty self-explanatory. But that's how you know that you're zeroed out, so that way those settings that I showed you earlier, you know that you're setting it, you know, correctly. So once you get that set, come back here into the shoe. So this is the shoe back here. Straw walkers are up here above the grain pan, this is called. This here is the chafer, and this is the sieves. Schaffer, sieves, however you want to say it. I'm not going to judge you. Anyhow, mine has got 2 adjustments. The back one, you can see just the section that it adjusts to here, and you'll also notice that I've got that open a little bit farther than the front's up here. So like I said, this is where I was running it for corn, my finger just right there where that's where I kind of like to run them. And then this back one, 2 fingers stacked. And this is just me. This is this, you know, the size of my fingers. It is what it is. You guys will have to experiment a little bit. But then the sieves, as you can see, fingers just go in there. This is how I know where to set it, and this is really close to where I set it for soybeans as well. I don't change a lot in here. But what I'll do is what we're going to talk about, what to look for is your combining, and what your clean grain, what your clean grain, and also what your what is going on? Anyway, we're going to look at the clean grain, and we're also going to look at the tailings return. And we'll talk about what to look for and what to change when certain things are happening there. So I'm going to come over here. So right here, this is your cylinder speed, and you'll notice you've got different size, well maybe, if my camera will focus here. Oh boy, there. So you notice you got different size cylinders here, which gets you to different speeds, high and low. So depending on what crop you have, depends on what cylinder it is, and you just measure the cylinder, obviously, and you know what speed ranges you're going to get into. Now, with this pulley, and it's the 16.5 inch pulley, I'm able to do pretty much all crops. I have the smaller pulley to get it faster for smaller grains, and I never use it. I pretty much always use this one. I actually hunted down every one of them cylinders and found out that, especially just for corn and soybeans, that this works fine. And I actually did wheat with that, and it worked fine. So there's that. So you can change it up there and get the RPMs up there. So, anything else I need to talk about on the separator side? I don't think so. Here's my coffee. I'm gonna get a drink of that. Bring you up into the cab. Okay, so here we are in the luxurious Gleaner cab, 1970s farming at its best here. There's your RPM system. It's supposed to work. None of that works, of course. Alright, so down here, this is cylinder speed. So this changes, to show you, it goes to that, goes down there, to that sieve, not sieve, and you know, it literally just opens or closes that, making it bigger or smaller. Real simple thing. Turn it for faster, turn it this way for slower, just like the knob says. So right here is your tailings return. This is one of the most important things that you're going to be looking at as you're combining. And it's hard to say, it's really hard to tell you, you know, I want to say if you got too much tailings, do this. If you got too much clean grain, do this. But you guys don't know what too much is. So that's, without it running, it's kind of hard to explain it. But you don't want this to have excessive amounts of clean grain coming through it. If there is excessive amounts of clean grain coming through it, you need to open up your sieve in the back. That's the small one, the one in the bottom in the shoe down there. That's where you start off with, is opening that up. And that's going to allow more seeds to fall down into your clean grain elevator and go into the bin. It's going to allow less to get pushed off of that, you know, off of the back of the Schaefer and down into this one. If you're getting large amounts of straw through here, and just debris and stuff, the first thing you want to do is close your Schaefer down a little bit, which is the top one, because you're letting too much stuff get through to that bottom sieve. And that's not always true. That might not fix it either. You might have to close your bottom sieve a little bit as well. Now, how we determine that is by coming behind the combine and checking grain loss. So if you're not getting, like I said, if you're getting all sorts of clean grain through there, open the sieve a little bit. If you're getting all sorts of trash through there, you generally need to close your Schaefer a little bit. And really, at that point, you should be out behind the combine checking grain loss. So if you're getting excessive amounts of grain loss out of the back, and you're also getting excessive amounts of chaff, I guess we'll call it, debris, crop residue through here, you've got a combination of too much air and too much of a gap on those sieves. So you obviously turn the air down a little bit, close sieves. I said sieves, I meant Schaefer. Close the Schaefer a little bit, turn the air down. Go a little while, see what you got coming through here, then get out behind the combine and see what you're losing back there. Now, there can be another problem that will give you similar symptoms with too much air, or I'm sorry, not enough air. If you don't have enough air and you're not holding the chaff and the residue up with your air, and that chaff is sitting on the chafers back there, what happens is you won't get the separation, first of all. So the seeds can't fall through the residue and get through the combine and into the clean grain, because they're not held up, they're not fluffed up, and the seeds can't fall through it. So what you end up with is a lot of crap here, a lot of crap in your bin, and a lot of seed off of the back. So those three things generally mean you need to give her some more air. And that's going to lift it up, and with contradicting here, because with the seed coming off of the back, you'd think, oh, I'm giving it too much air. But if you've got all three of those conditions, dirty grain, a lot of stuff coming through here, and you're throwing stuff out of the back of the shoe, here's your sign. Give her some more air. You're going to hold that grain up, and you're going to actually give the combine a chance to do its job and separate the grain. And this is where it kind of gets a little complicated. And it's also where it gets to be, me, I've ran this for years now, and it's just a feel for it, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it, guys. I mean, you're gonna make mistakes at first. That's all there is to it. So the first thing, though, is always to make sure that you're separating the grain correctly up here. You don't want to be crushing the grain. If you're doing corn, you don't want to be mulching everything up. The bigger pieces that you can get to come through the combine, the better. Because think about a corn cob busted down into, just say, 5 pieces. How much harder that would be to separate grain off of it. Say you got 100 of them coming in there through 5 pieces, you got 500 pieces of cob coming through here, compared to if you're shelling it all off, you got whole cobs. Now you've only got 100 cobs coming through here, and they're all big, and they can't fall into the little crevices like a broken up cob can. What happens is you highly raise the capacity of the combine, and this is with all grains. This is very important. You just want to be threshing the seed off of the plant. You don't want to be tearing the plant up. So basically, I always set it. I always start with them settings, like I showed you in the picture, and then I keep an eye. I do a little bit, and I come and I check here. I stop with grain in the combine, and I check here, and I'm looking for just the least amount of beat up stuff, and I want the shells off of the seed. If it's soybeans, I want to make sure that they're getting shelled all the way, but I don't want to be tearing the plants up. I don't really want to be ripping them up. The more intact the plants are as they're coming through the combine, the more capacity you have, cleaner grain you're going to have, and less of a headache you're going to have. And then especially with corn, you can see is there's a couple in there. Once you start breaking them up, the more you break them corn cobs up, the more they fill these walkers up, and the bigger issues you have there too. So you keep the cobs whole, and you end up with just higher capacity, less headaches. So once you figured that out, and you got, like I said, you got it threshing to where you're just getting the seeds off, you're not tearing the plants up, you're basically leaving the plants as whole as you can from the start. And that all starts at that cylinder up there, speed and gap, it all starts at that cylinder. And you really want to get that set right before you really dial in the shoe back here. And the shoe, like I said, there's multiple issues that can cause you to lose grain back here. One thing that I really want to point out is when you're checking for grain loss, always check under your combine first. Check where the shoe has not been, so that you know how much grain you're losing off of your header. Because your header if you're doing soybeans with a gleaner header, I hate to admit it, but they are just about worthless. They will lose 5 bushel the acre or more, just the grain tables, especially if your soybeans get to be a little bit drier than you want them. You start off and you're picking green stuff, you're doing pretty good, but once they dry down, 5 bushel the acre is probably on the light side of what you'll be losing just from the head. They're terrible. It's part of the process here. I've actually got a red head bought and it's going on here, so be looking forward to that video. However, always check under your combine, because if you're checking back here and your header's losing 5 bushel the acre and you're constantly changing things here, changing things up in the cab, it will drive you nuts. Trust me, been there, figured that out myself the hard way. Once you get that established, figure out how much you're losing up there, then you can come back here and you can figure out how much, obviously, how much you're losing back here. Figure out how much you're losing off of the shoe, and you can even be losing some off of the straw walkers if you've got too much air. So if you come back here, you see how I've got a little bit in there. Really that's fine, guys. This was probably 2 semi-loads, and that's all that I got in there. I picked 200 bushel of corn last year, and that's all that was in there. So that's not bad. That's actually really good. But make sure you're checking this and cleaning this out, making sure that it stays clean. So how this works back here, I should explain this. This right here, like I said, is your Schaefer. So this is supposed to catch all of your grain, and you're going to be getting a little bit of crop residue through this one. That's how it's supposed to work. So any grain that drops down onto this lands on this here, which that goes down to the clean grain auger up into the bin. Then anything that comes off of this sieve and makes it down here, see, because that door is supposed to be shut, obviously. So anything that makes it off of the sieve, and also that catches these back fingers, that's why I have these back fingers open, because any grain that does get back here is going to get caught more with these back fingers. And then you get a little bit more trash down in there. But that then gets sent down this one into your grain return elevator, which brings it back up into the header, not the header, but into the concaves and the cylinder, and rethreshes it, sends it back through the combine. So if you are losing large amounts of grain, like I said, you may have not enough air. And how you know that is if you come back here and everything's clogged up. So you got all sorts of stuff coming through the tailings elevator up there. You come back here, this is clogged up, and you're losing all sorts of grain back here. You don't have enough air. Everything's just sitting on the sieves instead of being held up. Your fodder's supposed to be held up so that seeds can fall through. Not enough air, everything's sitting on the sieves, you're clogging stuff up. The seed can't work its way through the fodder and down into the thing. First problem that you could have. Second problem, too much air. You're just blowing the seeds directly out of the back. Too much air, the seeds can't fall down, and that has a lot to do with field conditions, how heavy your seed is. There's so many factors that go into that. That's why you always have to stop. It's just the way it is with these. You got to stop and you got to look at stuff. We don't have the sensors up in the combine telling us what to do, all that fun stuff. So that's just the way that it is. So anyhow, if you are getting a bunch of dirty grain in your grain bin up there, your sieve is open too far. Or you're not using enough air. Again, like I said, come back, look at it. That'll tell you. If you're clogging stuff up, you don't have enough air. And also, at that point, you turn your air up and check it, and you may need to open everything up just a little bit. It's just all part of it. Just the more you drive it, the more you get a feel for it. So like I said, if you got too much air, you're just blowing the seeds off the back. that's pretty self-explanatory. If you're over threshing it up at the cylinder, you're going to have more problems with this clogging up. So that's why I said to make sure that your cylinder is set right, and really keep an eye on that first. That's your first step, making sure that you're getting the crop residue to be as whole as you can possibly get it while still threshing all the seeds off of the plant. What else is there about this? Another tip that I have on these, they have the side air. If you see, I've got them taped off. It's got a pendulum up there that runs air for if you're on a side hill. My pendulum works. It blows really good air, but what happens is these holes, see the tape right there, they clog up and they get crap in them. And what happens is then I ended up with clogs on both sides, just a bunch of stalks and stuff stuck in there, and caused more problems. So I just taped them off, and that's how it gets run. You can experiment yourself, but that's just my suggestion with that. Especially like me, I don't farm in the mountains, and I got a couple of side hills, but nothing too severe. So anyhow, I'm not sure how much more in depth I could go with this, and I feel like if I keep explaining things, I'm going to end up confusing everybody. But I hope I explained enough, and I'll go through and watch this. There may be a little bit added on that maybe I forgot to talk about or something, but as of right now, I'm going to call this video good. Any of you guys that have any questions for me, do not hesitate to ask. I will try my best to explain them, and if it's something too complicated, I'll come to the combine, make a shirt for you or something like that, and we'll go from there. But I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I really hope this helps somebody out. I hope somebody ends up getting some more grain out of the field due to this video. So give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you hadn't, and hope to catch you guys on the next one.